Mark Rogers TV on college football. We thought we had concluded our series on the best offenses in the nation. We've looked at Clemson, Oregon, Nebraska, Ohio State, and also Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia out of the SEC. Then Ryan Cantor, who writes for SportsKings.com, said, "Hey Mark, you gotta check out Miami." I've got to admit that the Canes have been off my radar for a couple of years. They've had a self-imposed 2-year postseason ban trying to preempt possible NCAA sanctions. They can play in a bowl after this season. And of course, there's possibly no firsthand in-person account of this offense since you can't find anybody who actually goes to Miami Hurricanes games. So we look at the videotape, we look at the stats, and we tell you what we think. First of all, before we get to all the offensive speed and playmakers, there's a few things that the Canes need to clean up in 2013. Red zone touchdown percentage. They scored just 52% of the time when they got to the red zone. 52% touchdowns in the red zone. That was 10th in the ACC. Also, just 68th in the country in third down conversion rate. 68th in the country. That's not good enough. And that leads into the next step. The Canes scored big against the horrible teams, didn't score so much against the best teams on the schedule. Of course, that's going to be across the board for any offense. You're going to score more against the bad defenses, but they've got to score against quality opponents. They've got to prove that they're a really top-notch offense by scoring against the best teams. Look at 3 points against Notre Dame, 13 against Kansas State. They scored 14 against North Carolina and 20 against Florida State, probably the best defense on the schedule in 2012. So score more touchdowns in the red zone and convert more on third down, of course, is going to equal more points on the scoreboard, especially against the quality opponents. All right, let's start with the Canes on offense at quarterback and senior Stephen Morris coming off a fine junior season, 3,345 yards, 21 touchdowns, 7 picks, especially flourishing down the stretch with a fast finish, 11 touchdowns and no picks in the final 4 games. Morris, though, if you look at the game log, look at the stats, couldn't get it done against the better teams, much like the rest of the offense. And, of course, it all starts with him. So Stephen Morris, we credit him with coming back very well, very strong off of back surgery in the previous preseason, offseason. Stephen Morris has to step it up against the better teams on the schedule. He is backed up by junior Ryan Williams, who completed 15 of 20 in mop-up duty. Now we get to the guy that everybody's excited about at running back, Duke Johnson. 947 yards rushing as a freshman, 10 touchdowns rushing, 14 total. He threw one. He brought back kicks for touchdowns. He caught passes for touchdowns. He was 9th in the nation in all-purpose yardage. Duke Johnson ran for 947 in gaining ACC Offensive Rookie of the Year status. And again, the key here is, though, Michael James is gone. So it's all up to Duke Johnson. We do not expect the rest of the guys that we're going to mention to get significant attempts. Of course, they're going to give him a breather, but it's all on Duke Johnson's shoulders to carry this rushing attack. He bulked up in the offseason to the tune of 6 to 8 pounds, so he's going to take a pounding. He knows it, and he's prepared himself physically. Got to prepare himself mentally and be ready to go. Also on the board is Dallas Crawford. The situation with him is that he comes in as a sophomore. He only had 6 carries last season. He came into the program as a quarterback defensive back recruit, as a 4-star guy, had 10 tackles on special teams, including an interception of note off the punter for Dallas Crawford. So who knows? Maybe he can step up and gain some carries from Duke Johnson. Also, you've got a couple of exceptional blockers here in Danny Dillard, a redshirt freshman, and Augustus Edwards, a freshman. When we say exceptional blockers, potentially they're big guys. And out of those two, the one guy that's going to get more playing time is going to be the guy that proves himself more as a lead blocker and a blocker in pass protection, of course, as the Canes will strike downfield, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Possible thunder and lightning combination here with Cornelius Elder. He was a 2-time Tennessee Player of the Year. Check out these PlayStation numbers. 6,000 plus yards and 84 touchdowns in his career in winning 3 state championships in Tennessee. Also as a senior, 2,600 rushing yards and 39 touchdowns on the ground for Cornelius Elder. So no back on this team, other than James and other than Johnson, ran it more than 16 times last season. Of course, it's all going to be on Johnson's shoulders for the most part. He's going to have to get a breather, so somebody's going to have to fill the gap. And of course, somebody's going to have to block as well. When you look at the offensive line, it's not great. It's not Texas A&M or Alabama, but at the same time, this offensive line performed extremely well, has a ton of experience, has periphery all-conference performers, has 93 total starts coming back in 2013. Let's run it down with right tackle Ciantrell Henderson, right guard Brandon Lidner, center Shane McDermott. You got your left guard at John Feliciano and left tackle Eric Flowers. Issues here, a few possibly along the offensive line. It's thin past the starting five. Feliciano's a road grader. He had to be subbed a number of times. His conditioning's in question. Also with Flowers, he's a four-star recruit who about mid-season in 2012 moved from right tackle to left tackle, and probably the best of the bunch is Lidner at right guard, who is preseason All-ACC first team. But periphery all-conference performers across the board, and nothing wrong with that because this group works very well as a unit together. Okay, at wide receiver, of course, a great tradition at Miami, and it continues to a certain extent with Phillip Dorsett, who caught 58 for 842 and 4 touchdowns. Tremendous speed out of Dorsett, but he dropped too many passes, and therefore playing time could be in question in 2013. He's got some guys at his heels, and if he continues to drop the football, he could see his playing time reduced. You've got Rashawn Scott, who caught 35 for 512 and 3 touchdowns as well as Herb Waters. Great spring out of this guy. Waters was a playmaker against the first-team defense, has amazing speed, caught 10 for 227 and 2 touchdowns. That's almost 23 per catch last season. And also Alan Hurns, a senior, who really produced well considering he was banged up with injuries. And he's different than the rest of these guys in regards to what he brings to the table. At 6'3", he's got a big frame and fights defenders for the football. Alan Hurns caught 28 for 314 and 3 touchdowns, actually 4 touchdowns last season. And an interesting prospect also in Stacy Coley, the 4th-rated wide receiver coming out of high school. Stacy Coley could battle for some playing time amongst Dorsett, Scott, Hurns, and Waters. At tight end, Miami's in good shape with 2 of the top prospects coming out of high school in top-rated Derek Griffin and 4th-rated Standish Dobard. The 4th-rated and the 1st-rated tight ends could supply some big plays in the passing game as well as this guy, Bo Sandlin, who comes in from junior college. He's expected to contribute as well as Asante Cleveland, who's interestingly enough, with all this talent, is listed number 1 on the depth chart after catching just 2 passes. Must mean the guy can block, because his backup on the depth chart right now is Clive Walford. Check out these numbers. Clive Walford caught 25 for 451 and 4 touchdowns. That's 18 per reception out of the tight end position, and Clive Walford is 6'5", so he can work the seam and make big plays. 18 per reception out of Clive Walford. Your place kicker coming back is Jake Weeclaw, who hit on 19 of 25 field goals. Decent numbers there, but 0 for 4 from plus 40 yards, so hopefully Weeclaw is working on the long distance kicking this August. Maybe most significantly is the offensive coordinator situation. James Coley comes in from Florida State. They somehow pried him from Tallahassee to Miami, and Coley's got the reputation of wanting to speed up the action, run a lot of plays, high up-tempo offense, and take big strikes downfield. You know, Morris is going to love that. They've got tremendous speed at wide receiver. Coley, somewhat his philosophy in the face of what Al Golden likes to do, which everything comes off play action, off the pro set, off the pro style offense, and running the football first. So they've got playmakers all over the place. If they start to gain more consistency out of the quarterback position, that is mostly key for Miami here, because great talent at the running back position, although if Johnson gets hurt, the backups are very much in question. And at the wideout positions, you've got all sorts of productivity with Dorsett, Scott, Hurns, and Waters. Okay, one thing to keep in mind, Florida's on the schedule, non-conference game in Game 2 for the Canes to deal with there, and an improved ACC with North Carolina stepping up in the past few seasons. We like 8 wins and 4 losses for Miami in 2013. Need to hear from you now on Mark Rogers TV.